Hi besties, welcome back to another episode of Midnight Modules, where I'll be reading to you some weird and unsolved murder mysteries that happen in the world. Of course, we'll be reading off of Reddit, so let's get into it. The torso of a young boy Adam that was found in the Thames River near the London Tower in 2001. On September 21st, 2001, the torso of a young boy was discovered in the River Thames near the Tower Bridge in central London. Dubbed Adam by the police officers, the unidentified remains belonged to a black male around the ages 4 to 8 years old who had been wearing orange girl shorts. The post-mortem showed that Adam had been poisoned, his throat had been slit to drain blood from his body, and his head and limbs had been expertly removed. Further forensic testing and examination had shown that the stomach contents and the trace minerals in his bones established that Adam had only been in the United Kingdom for a few days or weeks before he was murdered, and that he likely came from the region of southwestern Nigeria near Benin City, known as the birthplace of voodoo. The evidence led investigators to suspect that Adam was trafficked to Britain specifically for Muti killings and or a ritual sacrifice performed by a witch doctor that uses children's body parts to use for medicinal potions called Muti. Now that's weird and creepy, and I don't like it at all. Honestly, at first when I was reading this, I thought like, okay, maybe they're just doing like, I don't know, organ trafficking or something like that. It's still wrong, but like, that's what I was thinking because it's the torso. But, excuse me, only these and the legs was cut off. No hearts was removed, no other parts were removed. I just feel like I don't know, that's not okay. I don't see it mentioned, so I'll add this case of little Georgie Villemin. A family from a small town in France starts receiving anonymous threatening letters and phone calls with detailing information on the family. In 1984, a few years after the threatening messages had started, their 3-year-old son goes missing. That sucks. And is later found murdered by the river. Another anonymous letter is sent claiming that they have taken vengeance on the family. A relative of the family was accused of the murder, and this relative ended up getting shot by the father. Gary's mother is also suspected at one point officially, but no one has been convicted of the murder yet. In 2017, some of the distant relatives and family members, like a great aunt and a great uncle, were arrested for connections of writing the letters, but again, no one was convicted. And honestly, that is weird, and I would not be able to trust anyone, because what you mean my great aunt and uncle was writing letters threatening us and my son just gets murdered? If I was a father and I didn't know either, I would have done the same thing, because what do you mean my child is no longer alive and it could have been my family? But I'm also reading this book called The Book of Fear, and there's a segment in there where this man is basically saying, like, he talks to all his clients and he asks his clients, who do you think could harm you? And honestly, when you're like saying like, oh, well, it could be this person and this person, but it just could never be this person. Oftentimes when the person who you genuinely think it could never be, the person that you name that's not even relevant to the situation that you just so happen to bring up, it is them. And you just have to find the context clues of what you already know and the things you've already talked about and the suspicious behavior that has already happened to let you know where these threats and where this crazy stuff is coming from, and the conflicts. Even if you think it's silly, even if you think it's the smallest thing, you may think it's the smallest thing, you may think it's a silly thing, but other people feel otherwise, and they will take it out on you and your family, and it's so sucky. It's disgusting. But the book really teaches you a lot about trusting your instincts, and I honestly feel like this family, I know that, you know, RP to the young boy, and I know they probably didn't know nothing about this because they're in the UK and this is an American thing, but that should have been more thoroughly investigated. The family should have been more thoroughly investigated. Especially, it should have been reopened after the great aunt and uncle was deemed the ones that was writing the letter. Somebody in that family, everybody in that family should have been reinvestigated thoroughly, or the mom probably should have hired a private detective, because excuse me, Yeah, no way. And I know she's probably suffering a lot because her husband got locked away. Her child is gone. Now she's all by herself. She can't trust none of her body and her family. I understand that as being devastating. But as a mom, and I don't know her shoes. I ain't never been in her shoes before, but hopefully, God, I never have to be in her shoes. But I would still be looking to this day for the murder of my kids. And if I would have found out it was my family, I'd be happy and obliged to take their life and smile in that mugshot and not care. Disappearance of Annie Heroin. Annie was a wealthy elderly woman who was kidnapped and held for ransom, and her husband received letters from her begging him to pay the ransom, or else the captors would brick her up inside the basement and leave her to starve. Someone was eventually arrested for the kidnapping, but he was never charged with the murder, and the culprit refused to tell the cops where her body was, and he died maintaining his innocence. His co-corresponders were released for testifying against him, but they also refused to help locate her body. That's almost a zero chance that the prime suspect was guilty, but her death remains unsolved. And I hate thinking about this poor woman that went through this, especially if they did put her in a wall somewhere instead of just murdering her or letting her go. It's also chilling to think of how many people were involved and completely got away with murder like nothing happened. The main person got minimal jail time for the simple kidnapping, and again, to this day, her body was never found. I think, I don't know, it kind of just, it's a little fishy. Maybe the husband had something to do with it, and that's why they didn't want to tell where the body was. Maybe she never left the house. Maybe she was never kidnapped. Maybe she was already at the crib, chilling. Husband killed her, put her in a wall somewhere. Hey, you never know. Because honestly, it's like, I know it's like a cliche of like, oh, the husband did it, but like, what if he did do it? Like, I don't know. I don't put it past nobody because you can love someone so much and still cause them harm. So, we got one more story, besties, and then we're done for the night. There was a dying mall near where I grew up. At its end, it had only an anchor store left and a couple of kiosks, but that's it. One of these kiosks was a guy who sold baseball cards. He was around 70 or so, but he was like your favorite grandpa. He remembered everyone's names and he lit up when you asked about his cards. Even if he didn't buy anything, he still loved to have the company. His nickname was Coach, and that's what everybody called him. Well, the city announced that they were going to demolish the mall and gave the vendors 90 days notice to vacate. The big anchor store went first, then a couple other kiosks, but not Coach. Coach stuck around until the very end. On the day of the demolishing, Coach showed up and kind of hung near the corner of the sidewalk, but he looked incredibly sad and wouldn't talk to anyone. Once the charges blew and the mall came down, he just turned around and walked away. Later that day, my parents sat me and my brother down and told us that Coach had died the previous day. Before the demolishing, he was found in the car parking lot at the local grocery store in the previous afternoon. Apparently, died from natural causes. But everyone saw him at the demolishing. But it kind of explains why he looked super sad and didn't talk to anyone. Coach had been working at that mall since 1961. Looks like he finally did die when that thing died too. And honestly, that is not uncommon. I think a lot of people, they go from broken hearts, like, or something that they've like loved their whole entire life. Like, people die, like if you've been married for a long time, or if you love someone, like your parent pass away or your spouse pass away, or someone that you're really close to, God forbid your child passed away. But a lot of the times people die right after or a year after or something like that, because your heart, like that was your life. You've seen so many people come and go, you've been in that business for a very long time, or you've loved that person for your whole life or something like that, and so you just don't know if you can live on from it. And dying from a broken heart is an actual thing. So it's like, I understand, Coach. I really, really do. And that sucks that you had to die that way. But at least you got to spend the rest of your life in a place where you loved. R.I.P. my boy, Coach. Alright, besties, that's the end for the night. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Midnight Modules. Hi besties, thanks for watching another episode of Midnight Modules. As always, subscribe to my YouTube channel and add me on all social media platforms. Bye.